All right, science today. What we're going to do is we're going to go over what we did yesterday quickly. Matter. We talked about matter. Matter is all around us. It's everywhere. It's solids, it's liquids, it's gases. Okay? And most all of these things that are matter are made up of smaller things. Okay? And you can break them down all the way to the very small parts. We talked about the sand sculptures. And with the sand sculptures, you look at it and it looks like an elephant or a zebra. And in reality, you get up really close to it, and all that it is grains of sand. Okay? Your body is made up of cells. If you were to get it real close, if you were to take a part of your skin and put it under the microscope, you would see these little cells. That's what makes up your body. Okay? When I was in high school, we used to take apart an onion. And if you've ever done with an onion, you can peel off the outside skin layer. It's usually brown. And if you put it under a microscope and look at it, you will see all these cells that are making it up. They're plant cells. That's what makes up the onion. Okay? It's what makes up everything. The chairs you're sitting on, the desk at your seat, your book, okay? All of these things are made up of tinier things, okay? And all of these tinier things go to the periodic table, and there's like a little over 100 that make up everything in the world, okay? Yesterday also we talked about the elements, which are these that make up everything. The elements are broken into a couple of different areas. There's the metals that conduct electricity. We talked about electricity. We talked about heat. Heat also goes through these metals. And then you have your non-metals. And the way that you can tell, sort of, is that they don't conduct the heat or the electricity the best. Those are the ones that are going to insulate the outside of the metals and things that we have. We talked about all of those things. Now, today, we are going to talk about atoms. Okay, the first thing that we're going to talk about is atoms. And atoms are the smallest part of an element. I mean, you break down everything all the way down to the smallest thing. The atom is the one that has all of the qualities of each element, but it's the smallest part that you can get that has everything there. Okay? So I talked to you about gold. Okay, you can get a big gold bar, but that's made up of many, it's made up of not many elements. It's one element, but it's made up of many atoms. And if you were to break it down to the smallest piece, okay, that would be the atom. Okay? Now, I need someone to read. Kane, you want to read?
Yes.
Atoms, on page 12.
Atoms. The smallest part of an element that is still has the properties of an element is called an atom. Atoms are too small to be seen with a regular microscope, but special instruments can show how atoms are arranged. The atoms of each element are different from the atoms of the other elements. However, the atoms of all elements have something in common. They are made of the same three types of particles: protons, neutrons, and electrons. The number of protons determines what an atom will be. For example, an atom of a carbon always has 6 protons. No other element has atoms with 6 protons. Carbon atoms usually have 6 neutrons and 6 electrons as well, but some atoms of carbon may have different numbers of electrons and neutrons. As long as an atom has exactly 6 protons, it will be an atom of carbon. Since all substances are made of elements and all elements are made of atoms. All the matter around you is made of atoms. The idea that everything is made of small particles is then known as the atomic theory.
That is a theory. A theory is an educated guess that this is the way that they think everything is done. And to figure out that around us everything is made from atoms, that's the atomic theory. Okay? The idea everything is made of these small particles. Okay? Now, this is the good stuff. Atomic arrangement. The way things are arranged. Cece.
Atoms are often connected to other atoms in specific ways. The way atoms are connected affects the properties of an element. For example, when carbon atoms are connected as flat sheets, the carbon is soft and black. The form of carbon is called graphite. If the same carbon atoms are connected as pyramids, they form diamonds. Unlike graphite, diamonds are transparent and very hard. However, diamonds and graphite are both made of carbon.
They're both made of carbon atoms. Here's graphite. This pencil lead right here at the end, okay, that's carbon atoms. Just think, if it was arranged instead of a flat sheet, what would this be?
A diamond.
It'd be a diamond. It'd be worth a lot of money, okay? And there are people, scientists that are out there, it's like, hey, well, how can I change this around? There are some man-made diamonds, okay? They're not as spectacular as the ones that God creates in nature and naturally, but there are some. And people are finding ways to change things to make them that way, okay? But the arrangement, the way that things are arranged, this is carbon, but the way it's arranged in flat sheets. They're all next to each other, they're all laid out, okay? Now, if they were stacked up in a pyramid, then it would be a diamond, is what it would be. And so these are the different ways. Now, diamonds are usually, you will find them where there's volcanic activity. And with the volcanic activity, there's a lot of heat and pressure, and they're, down in the earth, and that's what forces them into that, and they make the diamonds. That's how they're made in nature, okay? Let's turn to page 14 and 15. This is where we get into the stuff that we were talking about yesterday with salt and water and sugar, okay? Luke, Spence.
Most things around you are compounds. A compound is a type of matter made of two or more elements. In a compound, the atoms of these elements are joined together in a particular way. Table salt is an example of a compound. It is made of the elements sodium and chlorine. When elements come together to form a compound is not simply a mixture of elements. It is a new substance. It is different from its ingredients.
Read on the next page too.
The smallest particle of an atom that still has the properties of that compound is called a molecule. For example, the smallest particle of water is a water molecule. A water molecule only has 3 atoms, but other molecules, like those of sugar, may have many atoms. Changing the number, kind, or position of the atoms in a molecule would result in a molecule of a different substance. For example, a water molecule always has 1 atom of oxygen, 2 atoms of hydrogen. Adding an extra oxygen atom would turn a water molecule into a molecule of a different substance.
Okay, yesterday I talked with you all about carbon dioxide, which is CO2. And I also talked with you about carbon monoxide, CO. Carbon monoxide comes out of the car vehicles, and carbon dioxide comes out of Cain, out of his mouth and his nose. Okay? And those are carbon dioxide. It's a carbon molecule with 2 oxygen. Now, if you were to change that and take away 1 oxygen, you're changing the whole thing, and now it's a carbon monoxide, which would come out of a car. Okay? Now, I know that Fred, our oak tree out here, will take in the carbon dioxide, but not the carbon monoxide. And then he gives off oxygen. He also makes something called glucose. Okay? Glucose, another nicer term for you there, Luke, is sugar. That's where sugar comes from. It comes from plants. Okay? Sugar, the lowest molecule of sugar is C6H12O6. It's made up of 24 elements. Okay? The smallest molecule of it, which has all of those in there. Now, the smallest molecule of carbon monoxide is made up of 2 elements, carbon and oxygen. Okay? Now, all these compounds that we talked about, that is 2 or more elements that are put together to make something else. Okay? In here they're telling you what I was telling you yesterday about the chlorine and the sodium. The sodium, it's a metal. And chlorine, that is a poisonous gas. Anybody have some sodium and chlorine this morning? I did. You had some, Liam?
I had eggs and I put salt on it.
I had an omelet and I put salt on it. But I didn't put a poisonous gas and a metal on there. It came out as salt. It changed the whole thing. When you put those 2 together, all of a sudden the sodium and the chlorine become the most common, most used element that we have, or the most common compound that we have with those 2 elements together, which is salt. Okay? Did anyone have some H2O with their breakfast this morning? You had some water, didn't you?
No.
That is another common molecule. Okay? It's a common compound. Okay? Now, if you were to break that compound up, it would be 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. Both of them are gases, but when you put them together, they form a liquid. Okay? And there are 3 elements in that. 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. Okay? And the smallest one of those, which has the 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, that's known as a molecule. So you have the smallest one of an element is known as a atom. And the smallest one of a compound is the molecule. I'm warning you. On the test, you're going to get tricked by it. Don't get tricked by it. Okay? You have to remember, smallest part of a compound is a molecule. Smallest part of an element, atom. Okay? Do you understand how they're alike? But you got to make sure that you have the right one with the other right one. The atom goes with the element, and the molecule goes with the compound. Okay? Now, you have some questions that are in here that go with these. I want you to make sure that you have them answered. Okay? Also, today, there is a seesaw activity. It's on solids, liquids, and gases. And it's basically in there. It tells you how to go through. I accidentally had it in for yesterday when I was meaning for it to be there today. And Dante in the other class went through, saw it in Seesaw, and did it. Okay? But what I want you to do is go through, just read the directions on it. It tells you exactly what to go and do. Okay? But before you do that, you are going to start your STAR math test. After your STAR math test, then you can have snack. While you're having snack, you can do your other work. Okay? You can do all those things. So for right now, do your STAR math.